A chill wind's blowing through Detroit, and if you've been paying attention, you know this isn't just about colder nights or frozen beer standing still in tailgates. This is the kind of tension that sits heavy on every Lion fan's chest. Fabutai, kind you felt back when Barry Sanders was breaking ankles and hearts, or when Calvin Johnson's roots looked like moments stolen from the gods, only to vanish all too soon. The ghosts of those heartbreaks still lurk here in Detroit, but so does a hunger fueled by last season's playoff push, an electric moment that whispered, maybe, just maybe, this team is climbing out of the shadows. Now, the question, hanging in the cold air, isn't if the Lions can compete, it's how far they're willing to go to break the chokehold the NFC North's had on them for so long. The Packers, watching, scheming, never counting Detroit out, but always waiting for a slip. The Vikings and Bears, ready to pounce if Detroit hesitates or crumbles. Every second the Lions stall on this front office gamble, those rivals sharpen their claws, and every fan in the blue and white knows the stakes. This moment could define whether Detroit's roar finally drowns out the noise of another rebuilding cycle or becomes just another bitter, almost whispered, under Ford Field's lights. This is Lions News Fan Report, the home for everyone who breathes blue-collar grit, fridge-cold beer, and fights for every yard in Honolulu blue. If you're feeling that fire in your gut right now, hit that subscribe, because Detroit isn't here for slow simmering anymore. We're talking about a franchise at the crossroads and a city ready to explode. Now buckle up, because the Lions-Packers rivalry has been rattled by a storm not just brewing, but breaking loose. Trey Hendrickson, the sack machine with back-to-back 17-plus sack seasons, is in the mix. And no, it's not just Detroit. Green Bay's got eyes on him too. But here's the twist that's got the whole Motor City buzzing. The offensive reins are no longer held by Ben Johnson, who departed to take on a head coaching role. That's right. The architect of last season's explosive attack is gone, with new play caller John Morton stepping in, and the implications of that ripple through every play, every roster decision. So where does Hendrickson fit in this changing landscape? And what does this all mean for the NFC North bragging rights? Hendrickson's name has been floating like smoke over Woodward Avenue alleys for weeks now. But what's the real story behind this? It's simple. He's locked in another contract year, frustrated with the Bengals despite dominating in the trenches. That puts Detroit and Green Bay in a rare, high-stakes bidding war. Detroit's front office, once led by Brad Holmes working closely with Dan Campbell, now faces a different chess game as Morton reshapes the offense, because every roster shift echoes across the scheme, the culture, and the whole team identity. And yet, the desire to land Hendrickson burns hotter than ever. On paper, pairing him with Aiden Hutchinson, Detroit's homegrown star who's been blossoming into a legitimate pass rush terror, creates a defensive nightmare that could wreck opposing offenses like a loaded semi barreling down 8 Mile. The Lions could double their pass rush threat overnight, turning their front seven into the kind of relentless blitz killers NFL coordinators warn their QBs about in the pregame film sessions. The ripple effect. It puts pressure on younger players like Derek Barnes and Charles Harris, forces snap battles into the open, and weighs heavily on salary cap decisions tight enough to snap like a cold axle. But here's the clincher. Are the Lions ready to gamble the future on acquiring Hendrickson without a proven system fully settled into place? The question isn't just about salary cap or draft capital. It's a cultural gamble. Last season, under Campbell with Johnson still calling plays, the Lions showed flashes of playoff grit that Detroit has desperately craved since the 0-16 nightmare and those dagger moments after Sanders and Megatron left. Now, with Morton steering, the offense, the identity is still taking shape, which only raises the stakes on locking down defensive dominance. Detroit doesn't have the luxury to tinker. They need this move to pay off immediately, or risk falling back into the familiar winter of what ifs and not quite theirs. Meanwhile, across the NFC North battlefield, the Packers are circling like hawks sensing blood. They know Hendrickson in green and gold would be more than a defensive boost. It could be a statement that Detroit's reclaiming its territory and pushing the division into chaos. Imagine the ripple effects, Minnesota and Chicago scrambling, their strategies to respond, the whole division shifting from cautious to cutthroat overnight. Detroit's rivals are watching close, and this battle for Hendrickson might just be the early salvo in next year's divisional war. Inside the Lions locker room, the buzz is electric and tense. Bringing in a veteran like Hendrickson doesn't just add sacks, it sets a tone, a hunger that young vets like Barnes and Harris can latch onto. Suddenly, every play becomes a proving ground. The line between contender and pretender narrows to every rep and every bellicose hit. But securing Hendrickson means playing a high-stakes salary game, one where overspending risks future seasons and sticking tight to draft picks limits the influx of fresh talent hungry to break through. And if you think tailgate talk hasn't caught wind of it, there's already that classic Lions fan quip making rounds. Better start stacking QBs like pancakes for 2025, because you don't know who's taking the starter's ride like a pack mule next season. Classic Detroit sarcasm cutting through the tension like a whetted blade. So what does this all mean for Detroit's future? The city's scars still run deep, from Barry Sanders walking away to Calvin Johnson's sudden retirement and that soul-crushing 0-16 season, but those wounds also fuel a fire. In this moment, the Lions are either breaking through or falling back to a familiar rut. This Hendrickson chase, combined with Johnson's departure, is more than a transaction. It's a defining moment. Detroit could either ignite a defensive renaissance, paired with a rebuilt offensive identity, or suffer a fracturing identity crisis that leaves us all asking, why didn't we push harder when we had the chance? Ford Field feels it already, the restless energy of fans, the crackling tension of tailgate chatter, the roar building beneath the Detroit winter sky. The next move Detroit makes could shatter the NFC North hierarchy or see the Lions fade behind the pack once again. The clock running out, the front office weighs every pick and every penny, and the city holds its breath. Are the Lions courageous enough to claim Hendrickson's beastly pass rush and lean into the unknown, with Morton's fresh playbook still settling in? Or will the hesitation drag this franchise back under, just out of reach, from the greatness we all crave? You, Detroit, how do you see this move shaping our future? Is this the moment the Lions finally shed the ghosts of the past and roar into contention? Or another chapter of almost, lost in the frozen winds beneath Ford Field's glare? Sound off. Because this battle for Hendrickson isn't just about one player. It's the heartbeat of a city desperate to stop waiting and start winning. And if the Lions get this right, it won't just be a game changer. It'll be Detroit writing a whole new story on the NFL map. Let's see if we've got the guts to make it happen. Here in Detroit, the stakes couldn't be higher. Losing the steady hand of Ben Johnson to the Bears and now staring down a potential bid war over Trey Hendrickson has fans feeling like the foundation is shaking beneath Ford Field's concrete. This isn't just about sacks. It's about redefining Detroit's identity on the defensive line, about finally asserting NFC North dominance after years of being battered by green. Bay's green-tinted narratives and Minnesota's stubborn grit. Landing Hendrickson could instantly convert the Lions' pass rush from promising to terrifying, doubling Hutchinson's production and turning our front into a blitzkrieg. Yet the risk of burning the salary cap or overextending on a veteran without the offense fully settled under John Morton could leave Detroit chasing shadows instead of playoff glory. And with the clock ticking, every fan is asking, are we all in? Or are we about to watch another season slip through our fingertips? Another chance to make history vanish like Detroit's abandoned relics in the river. If Hendrickson joins Detroit, he immediately slots in as a prime edge rusher, pairing with Hutchinson, to unleash a double-sided assault. Derek Barnes and Charles Harris will feel the heat, either stepping up or getting pushed aside, while younger pass rushers fight for snaps, all under the pressure to maximize every dollar invested. But this also means the front office must weigh whether to tear up the cap sheet or gamble on immediate dominance, even if it costs draft picks or future flexibility, because in Detroit, history warns us that boldness either pays off big or leaves us stranded in what could have been. With Johnson gone, the Lions' offensive identity is still being drawn. Morton's system isn't tested yet, and that makes acquiring Hendrickson a double-edged sword. Do they shore up the defense now, risking offensive fireworks dimming, or do they gamble everything on one last push for balance, a playoff-ready squad forged in urgency? That's the chaos swirling through Allen Park, because if this move doesn't click fast, the window shrinks, and Detroit risks being left in the dust, just another almost in a cycle of heartbreaks. This Hendrickson pursuit could be the domino that sets off division-wide chaos. Green Bay's already circling, seeing him as the piece to vault their